Hey guys, it's Adanya. I'm thinking about like starting a little blog about things I notice about my mind. So I guess this is the first video. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing it, but I thought about sharing some observations I just made today. So I was studying for my chemistry exam on Thursday, and then I was thinking, okay, I need to practice now because I have a classical piano exam tomorrow. And then I felt myself resisting that. I was just like, I don't feel like practicing. And I noticed that I do that a lot. Like most of the time when it's time for me to practice classical music, I just don't feel like it. And I do it anyway. And usually once I start, I actually like it more than I thought I would. But when it's time for me to decide to go practice, I don't want to. And I'm sure probably a lot of musicians can relate. Please let me know if you have anything in common with me in the comments. And so I was just writing this down in my journal, and I was asking myself, why? Why do I have this resistance towards practicing when I actually do want to become better at classical music, and I usually do enjoy practicing it? So I wrote down a few things that I thought maybe could be the reason why in my journal. And three different theories I have is I'm already tired, but I feel like I have to do it right now. So sometimes, like, I was studying chemistry for like a good 2 hours or something like that, and I had come home from school. So sometimes we're tired, but we feel like, man, I have to go practice this because I got this deadline, or you have something that you have to be prepared for, and so you feel like you have to do it right now. Another reason is, and if you're already tired, then you're definitely not going to feel like doing something like practicing that takes effort. Another reason why I thought maybe this is why I'm resisting practicing is I think it's going to take too long, and I feel like it's going to take so much effort for me to get the result that I want. So sometimes we can feel like, man, I have to do all this work. I have this much stuff to learn, or I have this much to get through, and that's going to take a lot of work. That's going to take a lot of effort. I'm dreading going through all that effort, which most of the time, again, once I go through it, I end up achieving things faster than I thought I would, or faster than I predicted that I would. A third thing is a lack of clarity and confidence in my abilities and my practicing skills. So I might be thinking, I don't really even know exactly what I'm supposed to do and how to do it. I don't have a clear idea of what it is I need to do to be able to get to the point that I'm trying to get to. So I also wrote down 3 ways I can counteract that resistance coming from those 3 different reasons. And the first one was to take a break. If I'm tired and I do know that I need to practice, instead of jumping straight from studying chemistry for 2 hours, I can say, well, let me take a 10-minute break or 15-minute break, and then I'll practice and kind of clear my mind, relax, get in a state where I'm not exactly tired, but I'm a little bit more refreshed. So I might meditate for a few minutes before I practice and kind of clear my mind, let go of some of the stress of the day, and let my mind kind of let go of all the things I was trying to absorb studying chemistry. So if you take a 10-minute break, the productivity and the excitement you might gain from being more refreshed when you start practicing could be greater than the time you took away by taking that short break. So I think taking a short break can help me, and I'll let you know if it does after I try it. The second thing I thought I can do is only plan to practice for a short amount of time. So if you're feeling like, man, I need to practice, and I need to practice for 2 hours, then you might be dreading that because you're like, for 2 hours, I'm going to be sitting down slaving at this instrument. But really, you can say, well, let's see what I can get done in 20 minutes. You might say, I need to go back, and I'll probably need to practice 20 minutes 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. But if you think about the first practice session as, I'm just about to go down here and practice for 20 minutes, then it's not as bad as feeling like, oh, I need to go practice for 2 hours, and that's dreadful. So I think actually setting smaller intervals for myself to practice can be a way for me to not feel as bogged down by the kind of thing of, oh, I need to go practice. So I'm going to see how much I can achieve in 20 minutes. And it also puts a limit on, like, you feel like you have to be really productive with this 20 minutes or else you're wasting time. So if I put a timer on for 20 minutes, I'm probably going to practice differently than if I say, I don't know how long it's going to take me to learn all this, but I have to sit here and finish it until I do. So that's another thing I'm going to try. And at the same time, if you do 20-minute intervals and say you take 5 to 7 minute breaks in between, the productivity you can gain in having a shorter term mindset and what you're going to accomplish in that smaller period of time could be greater than the time you lose by taking breaks, which is what I'm thinking. I probably have to run some sort of experiment to actually prove this, but I'm thinking that if I take very productive 20-minute spurts of practice versus a dreadful 2 hours where there's not really a clear idea of what I'm doing and I don't have a time limit on myself, I bet you that I'm going to get more done faster with the 20-minute segments. The third thing is to have a clear idea of what exactly I'm trying to accomplish and how I'm going to accomplish it. Now, when you go sit down and practice, there's people who can go and practice for 5 hours and not get as much done as someone who practices for an hour and a half, because the person who practiced for an hour and a half could have a very clear idea of what is it exactly that I'm trying to accomplish with my practice and what's a really methodical method for me to get that done. So, the third reason I felt resistance was I felt like I had a lack of clarity and a lack of confidence. But the way I can counteract that is to say, as a classical musician, I have a lot of experience, I have a lot of skills and instincts, and I do know how to put some things together. I do know what I am trying to accomplish today is finish putting together and polishing the sections of this Rhapsody I'm learning up to the point where I'm supposed to learn for my exam. When I have all the music read through, I can play it, but there are some mistakes, there's some rough patches, and I even have them circled in my music from when I had a lesson with my teacher. So I really do have a clear idea than I think I do. It's just the first thing that pops in my head when I think about practicing is, oh, I don't even know what to do. So before you practice, if you take a couple minutes to look at, okay, first of all, establish your goal. What is it that I'm trying to achieve? Right now, I'm trying to make sure my excerpt for this exam is very polished and is as clean as it can be. And say, okay, what specifically? And I can say, well, I know I need to hit these different spots that I circle in the lesson. And then you can also say, I know this part I can't play it up to tempo, or I'm not really diving into the dynamics or the musicality, or I keep messing up the fingering here, and kind of self-diagnose what are my problem areas, and then say, I think for me, the best way to practice this is take this half a page, let's say it's 6 measures where, you know, this 6 measures is kind of rough. I have these 3 rough spots in there. Let me go in and check in on those rough spots. Make sure I'm playing it 5 times in a row, perfect, slowly. Then I'm putting it all together into that section of 6 measures and noticing any other problems I need to fix. And then once I can play through that 6 measures, I've got that much more added to the section of the piece that I can play that's polished. And if you think about that, you probably can do something like that in 15 minutes. So if you take that approach to finding the specific things to fix, usually they don't take very long to fix. They might take a few minutes to fix. Let's say if you have one measure, you need to fix that. But if you can play that one measure correctly, it makes all the difference. So I think if I go through in that way, knowing exactly what I need to fix, then I'll feel less dreadful about it and be more productive with my practice because I know exactly what I need to do. And I feel like I actually am achieving something, and I have hope that my practice is going to be worth it and I can get better. So those are kind of my observations about practicing. And I know there's a lot of musicians that follow this page. So if you ever get like bummed out about practicing, or you know you need to practice but you don't feel like it, or you have this resistance, or some people do something I call guilt practicing, where they're like, oh, I'm so tired, it's the end of the day, but I know I need to practice. If I don't practice, I'm going to feel guilty, I'm a bad musician, I don't care. But really, whenever you practice, you should be excited about it. And I don't think you should really practice when you're tired, because if you're in that mode of, I gotta do this, it's gonna be much more of a drag than if you're excited about it. And it's better to wake up early and do it, or do it at a time where you're not tired yet, or take a little break, take a nap, do something to kind of clear your head and let go of whatever stress you have from the day before you start practicing. So I'll make another video and check back in and tell you how my practice session went today after considering these things, and see if it makes a difference. If you choose to do the same thing, that'd be really cool, and you can leave me some of your comments in the comment section. All right, thank you.